when Rigiji and myself tukifika hapo mbele na tumepangana, tumekubaliana vile itaenda, we must also agree that going forward, if a man is a candidate for president in our party, the woman must be the runner.
All right, so that was is it a promise or, well, it's a statement from the president on what should happen in the future of the UDA political party. And I'll begin with you, Deputy Speaker, on this one. So is it possible to enforce this? Because he's saying that they'll have a discussion hapo mbele. So there's an election in 2027. I presume the president may want to defend his seat. Is it possible to implement what he's saying in that election?
No, I was there when he talked about it, and he was talking about 2032, not the upcoming election. But he's saying it's something we must implement as a party. That day, we were launching the strategic plan for the G7, the 7 women governors. And there was discussion that the target is to have at least 24 women governors. So it was in that context that he was explaining. And you see, what has always happened that has been the challenge is for us to have mechanisms for ensuring that women can actually enter into these offices. Because of the nature of our patriarchal society and other challenges, it is still difficult without certain framework existing for women to be elected. And it is possible for it to happen. Already at the judiciary, it's happening. The judiciary, actually, from the new constitution, it was clear that if the Chief Justice is a woman, then the deputy would be male. And that is why you had the first Chief Justice was Willy Mutunga, and then Nancy Baraza, and then we had Justice Rawal. And so they continue to implement that. This other time, what happened is the best candidate was a woman, but there was already a woman deputy. But then I think she's got 4 years to go. So it will be corrected. But you see, it's at least a deliberate effort. The judiciary actually was very progressive. And even in the hiring of they've got actually a proper balance in both the Court of Appeal and the High Court.
Right.
When the president was mentioning it, he was saying in our party, because sometimes for it to be able to happen, you've got to have the party making a deliberate decision to give. If you have a strong woman candidate somewhere, whether for governor or for member of parliament, if the party makes a decision that that's the person who will get the ticket, that woman will win. And if you look at, and actually on this one, you can give credit to ODM. ODM put their foot down, and Raila gave the ticket to Gladys Wanga, despite, not agreement with the other parts. If he hadn't done that, then she probably would not have been governor. If you look at the member of parliament for Rangwe, she also got a direct ticket. So did who was the other person?
Even yourself?
All of us.
Yeah. So you see, the women that are actually in ODM were elected because the party made that decision.
Yes.
So even though sometimes Raila would be accused of meddling in issuing tickets at the party, on the part of women, we must give him credit.
It was an affirmative action.
Yeah, it was an affirmative action. So what else he wouldn't have? That's why you have a woman member of parliament for Rangwe. You have a woman member of parliament for, who's the other? Kasibul Kabondo. Yes.
You have Rosa.
And then you have Rosa. Although Rosa had headwinds, they weren't quite supportive. But still, when you look at it, there was an effort by the party. And that's why even now, some of the proposals that are being made by the NADCO is actually to see if we can do it at the party list. But it has to be done in such a way that there is political goodwill. The pronouncement of the president, for me, is actually a very big step, because there is now the most senior person in the country making a political statement about it. Because in the past, we have never had any political...
So tell me, because you say it's not for 2027, it's for 2032, then why make such a pronouncement so early, a whole 8 years ahead? And how do you make sure that it can happen in 2027 for the other seats if it doesn't work for the presidency?
No, that's why I explained to you the context of it. Remember, we were talking about putting more women in political office.
And
that was the topic.
In 2027.
Yes, that was the topic. So, in fact, in this one, we were talking about having a minimum of 24 women governors in 2027. That was the context in which you were saying. What he was saying is pledging his support and saying that we need to think bigger as a country, or at least as a party.
Okay.
Yes, and this is not this conversation have been going on for a long time. If you remember my constitutional amendment bill, I was suggesting that rather than nominate women to top up at the Senate, we have two senators per county. And each would run on a joint ticket, one male, one female, on an equal basis, and both would be leader of delegation, because currently, Senator Maina here will tell you that she's not able to vote as a nominated member. So it doesn't actually give us leverage.
On some issues.
On some issues you vote as a part of a delegation, right?
Yes, we vote by delegation.
Yes.
Okay, I want us to listen to...
So it's a conversation that, I'm happy that it's beginning to be discussed at that level.
Okay. I want us to listen to the president on something more that he said about this gender conversation, especially on the work that has been done. And you highlight a bit of it on the bill that you had proposed, but wasn't successful. Okay, all right. The team is up there looking for the bite, and so soon as we have it, we'll get to listen to it. But Senator Onyonka, talk to me about... It's a pronouncement, says that that can only happen in 2032, but there's a plan...
No. The Deputy Speaker is, again, protecting the President.
I'm saying that's how I had it.
Might annoy Gachagua. And Gachagua, you saw Gachagua started talking in parables. And he started singing around, saying, now I can see the demons are beginning to come. The truth is very simple, Sam. In my thinking, these are some of the things that, for me, excite me very much when President Ruto talks. There are times, if he can talk what he talks and then he runs with it all the way until implementation, fantastic. This matter has been discussed by many of us for a long time. In fact, the decision, the point he's bringing out, which is that we can have a lady all the time becoming a deputy to the president, is going to be, for me, it should be cascaded all the way down to the county governments. Actually, what the president is not saying, and they are testing the water, is if you have the deputy becoming a lady at the national level, then can you take it down? Me, I would love to take it down. For example, there is a contradiction in our constitution. You take a lady, Sam, she runs for women rep. In Kisii, Madam Donya ran in 9 constituencies. She spends money in those 9 constituencies as if she's running for governor. She creates a network, 9 constituencies, as if she's going to be running as a governor. She wins the position, comes in, and she's paid the same salary like a member of parliament who has 1 constituency. She has no capacity. Why? Because we have not empowered her with that capacity. As a result, you find that there's a convolution. And on top of that, what was it that we were trying to cure when we were saying let us introduce women nominees? We are trying to look at gender parity. My conviction and belief, I can say that without any fear of contradiction, it should also go without question that if the man is actually running for governor, the woman should be a deputy. And in that case, for me, you end up solving the problem where now you will actually have the lady and we must make sure the lady has got executive powers to make sure that
the man, the man could be the deputy, right?
Exactly. Even for the man, that you will remove this nonsense going on where all the deputy governors are being treated like prodigal children or some nonsense. So, for me, what the president is doing is preparing the Kenyan mindset that we must now accept that actually our women folk, our leaders who are female, our leaders we must as men begin to realize that they're going to take over positions of power. They're going to be given much more responsibilities. You can see they're here and you can see their performance. You can see how they articulate. So the gender issue for our country, if we are able to give our women capacity and empowerment, responsibility, chances are the country will move much more better than if we have this notion where we are only having men You find like in the Senate, when we have governors coming for to answer audit queries, you find he comes with 19 or 18 people and 2 are women. So 17 are men.
Okay.
You know, that
I want to correct him on something.
Yes. Sorry, I'll give you an opportunity. Okay. Let's first listen to the president on what he said about the long time it has taken.
It has been a back and forth for now over 10 years. I want to commit to the women of Kenya that this time round, we will make sure that the 2/3 gender rule is attained.
So, talks of 10 years. Of course, the Constitution passed in 2010, so the first election was 2013.
It's 11 years.
Yeah, 11 years now. But at the same time, in all these elections, there has been attempts to appoint, especially appointed because they're in the control of a president, women into cabinet. In the current cabinet, you have 7 women out of 22 CS appointees. That is just under a third. The promise, Senator Maina, because you are the Secretary General of UDA, at the Women's Charter meeting, the promise was to have 50-50 cabinet representation. Yes. That didn't happen. When the first list of 51 principal secretaries was released, out of 51, the women were about 12, which is again 23%. Sorry?
13. There are 13 women PSs.
At the time of the list. Okay, we'll verify that. But from our calculations, 23% were women against a promise of 50% or 50-50.
PSs was 30% was the promise.
So why is it so difficult to keep a promise, and why should Kenyans take the president seriously when he says that there will be a resolution later in the UDA party that you have to make sure that if a candidate is female, the deputy is male, and vice versa?
I think you must understand the decisions and the resolutions of the president within the context in which we operate in the African culture. It is actually easy to say, I'll give 50% to women. When you come to the implementation, the factors that work and militate against women are very many. And we must face those realities so that we are able to solve them also. Because when you come to those appointments, there are many issues that the president has to balance. He has to balance certain parameters within even the Constitution itself. And I'm not saying we don't have women who are qualified enough to actually take not 50%, but 60%. We do have. We can run women at 80%. If you look at the judiciary today, it's being headed by Chief Justice, who is a woman, DCJ, who is a woman, and they are doing a very good job, if you ask me. And they have made a major leap. Like yesterday, what they did, they are almost walking ahead of the executive, ahead of legislature, in terms of implementation of an e-platform and uptaking of court matters on an e-filing system, which will reduce a lot of backlog, it will reduce a lot of corruption. But we are not on the judiciary, we are on the appointments by the president. I think he's made a very big effort towards meeting the promise that he gave to women. And we saw even in the appointment of the ambassadors, which he did the other day, that he actually deliberately went out of his way to assure women, to show women that if there was 1 or 2 women missing in the CS's list, we could make it up with other appointments because, numbers don't lie. If there are 7 women, there will be 7. If there are 8, there will be 8. But what we need for us is that if women didn't get it at the CS level, let's have a recoup of that opportunity. And he has made that leap to make sure that we can recoup the opportunity that we lost as women. To that gender rule, before even he became, Dr. William became president, has been such a journey in this country. And if you want to know how difficult it is, I just want you to have an internal look into a media house like Citizen or a media house like Nation. You look at them and see how difficult it is for them to try and push women up, because even when you want to promote women, you find in the middle cadre where they should be promoted to the next level, they are missing. There is an absence in that middle cadre. So you find them further down where they are doing jobs that...
even private corporates.
Yeah, the roles that have been ascribed to them are the simpler roles. They are not being seen as women roles. So you find them in the... Because one of the difficulties we have even in the security sector, for us to have an IG who is a woman, to find between the top tier and the middle tier and the lower tier, you don't have a category of women here in the center to promote to the top tier. So it then means you're having to work very hard when you pick some of the candidates. People will look at them and say, this one is a girlfriend of so-and-so, because we didn't see her anywhere, and she suddenly is being prompted up now to become, say, a nominated senator or MP or even a CS or a PS. They say, we don't know her. Where did she suddenly come from? But for the men, it's very easy to pick the likes of my senator colleague here. If you pick Onyonka, everybody's like, we know him. He's been doing this and that. But for women now, we have the challenge of preparing a crop of women. One of the difficulties that the governor candidates are having, the G7, is to say which women candidates can we now prop up to take up the G24. That is the first challenge. So, and I think if the governors are having that challenge, G7, this is the same challenge the president will be having, because once you appoint somebody as CS, there has to be an acceptability of the competencies, the fact that they are able to run and compete at par. And I'm saying women are competent, but the opportunities for them to continually rise, because you can't do it within a day. That's why it's taken over 12 attempts to do an amendment for the implementation of gender to that gender rule, and it's been failing every time. But the people,
Senator, well, I hear you, the challenges, for instance, that you highlight in the National Police Service. I mean, 14 years' time, if we really intended to make sure that the women are empowered, even in the police service, 14 years is not a short time.
It's not a short time.
It is possible.
And that's why we need a culture change, institutional thinking. We must look at the gender stereotypes. What roles are we giving, ascribing to women? Are we still telling them they are good for serving tea, they are good for doing simpler jobs, are they good for care jobs, or are they able to uptake other jobs that are being taken, that are male-dominated? Because what you'll find in the security sector, the domination is by men. If you give the command to the women, they don't even accept the voice. They even say the command has to come with a boom. You know what I mean? While ignoring that even the guns are so sophisticated now. You'll have a very good gun held by a woman. It's not even heavy. And at the tap of a button, she can perform whatever role she needs to perform.
Yeah, but also there's something that people sort of forget when they look at the journey of women in employment. I was once involved with talking to women in middle management in the banking industry. And the problem they were facing is that they have very good women. They get to middle level, but never ascend to top level in the organization. We discovered after sitting and speaking with those women that because women, especially, and many women have children, so what happens is they almost take a break from work. They stop working longer hours, years of their professional life. So there are many factors that affect women. I know that I was personally lucky, but I paid a price. I was back to work 3 weeks after having a baby in all my children. But I had a big supportive system at home. I mean, I had times when my child would be brought all the way to the UN to breastfeed, all the way from South B. I used to live in South B those days. So it's... we always tell ourselves where and to. So you might find that there are women who are competent, but because they haven't been able to take over certain duties, then they can't make the pass mark to be able to get onto that job. So they have a delay. And then also, if you look at in the security sector, you find that the men have the freedom to go. Let's say there is a peace mission in DRC, they go. Then they earn more bonga points on their credentials. Then they are able, they can pick up and take up duties. They can even decide, okay, I can be posted to Ajia. Whereas you have a police officer who is probably a mother, will not take up that position to Ajia. It will probably take her 10 years to be able to take those kind of difficult areas. So you see, they have more chances of actually showcasing themselves at the workspace.
Okay, I get that, but let me take you back to the appointive positions, because she explains that there are certain, and I'll get to you, Honorable Elachi, there are certain realities that come after an election.
Yes.
I'm sure the president knew this because he had been in government for a whole 10 years as deputy president. But also, even in the appointment of the ambassadors that he was speaking about on the day of International Women's Day, he appointed 16 women. But in the same document, appointed 27 men, still not 50-50. Why is that difficulty?
Yes, you know, I know that the intention of the Kenya Kwanza charter was that we're going to have 50-50 for cabinet and at least 30% in the principal secretaries. But of course, when you sit down on the table and begin to go through the lists, there's first regional balancing that you've got to do. There's also, you also just don't look that this person is competent. There's also loyalty issues and somebody who actually understands your plan and your manifesto and so on. So it's not, so when you may come down, you realize, okay, I'll have to trade off on a few positions. As I was saying, there's a lot that is taken into effect. For me, the fact that we at least got 7 is way, at least 7 women.
Could be the first of a kind.
And then another 3 advisors.
First of a kind.
Yeah, it's first of a kind. It's never happened. So the question I always ask myself, are we making progress? Because once we make progress, it moves. If you look at it in 2013, we had 0 women governors. And then we got 3. Then now we got 7 in this 3rd election cycle. What we are doing is making progress. And if you look now what is happening, the women governors are shining. They are doing a splendid job. Actually, they have outperformed the men. And that's why you had the remarks when you know, the work that Governor Wanga is doing, the work that Governor Waiguru is doing. They're all doing amazing work. And what will happen, actually, with that success of those 7 women governors, it's going to become easier to let the electorate be able to hire, to be able to elect. Yes, even if you talk about, if you hear the story of Governor Cecil Mbarire. Cecil Mbarire says, because Waiguru had performed in the nearby county, it was easier for the people of Embu to accept that a woman can work. So the important thing is, if we have a critical number that perform very well, the mindset of the society will begin to change.
Right.
And Sam, you must realize...
Sorry, let me hear from Honorable Elachi here, because I think you are the first... I could be wrong, but at least in Nairobi I'm right, the first woman speaker of the assembly. And when this is explained, still these realities, again, people are aware of them. What they describe here in the security sector, people are aware of them. What she says about when you're looking at the lists and you're looking at loyalty and understanding of the manifesto, people are aware of them. So why promise what you cannot achieve?
Well, Sam, first of all, let us appreciate that when you look at that history of women in Kenya, I would say having gotten our progressive constitution, it has now helped us to enhance. Because before, it was the worst and the most difficult thing to even talk about. And remember, women are looked at, where are you married? Where did you come from? Are you living at home? Are you, now you are married in a different region. Why are you coming back home? And you find many women win when they go back to vie in their homes, where they were born more. Very, very few of them are able to win in where they are married. And so let us appreciate first, it is all of you plus some plus all the men who have made it very difficult. Then, then we come now and look at what the president is doing. To be very honest, progressively, he will achieve. Progressively.
Okay.
Because I don't want to talk about the disciplinary at our forces, because it is how we started the disciplinary forces is what affects women. That in those days, you would even count 1. In fact, it is of late where now we are trying to ensure when they go for recruitment, you must pick. But you remember there were days that they would just say you are pregnant, even if you're not pregnant. And that's the end of you. You can't join that force at that time. And the days before even they changed their own law was that when you are pregnant, you come out. You're removed. It was very sad for women, especially in KDF. It was the most sad part in terms of... But then now, I believe the deputy governors, if they want to now take over from their governors, if their governors especially are clearing their tenures, then that's the team the 7 governors must hold on. Just the way Achani worked with Mvurya and find herself getting in. So the deputy governors we have across, and all the seats that we know are of governors that have finished now. We have Bungoma. We have very many of them, by the way, who will be leaving, and so we want to see. My governor, Waiguru, has the toughest task. She has to ensure a woman continues reigning in Kirinyaga.
Why don't you want them to alternate?
Well, even the men will never allow us to take the top seat. Have you seen now it is becoming very... They don't talk about that one. We are talking about all this. So it's the same.
What do you mean? Which one are they not talking about?
Top seat, the number one for my president.
But the president just promised.
No, he promised. Well, he has goodwill, by the way. For me, what I know... Let me tell you, do you know if you want women to be in all these positions, it's just political parties to do it. It's not about even, it's just political parties at the primaries. And at the primaries.
But then... Let me ask you this, Honorable Elachi.
Yes.
Knowing the politics of the country, there has been lots of trade-off even between political parties.
Yes.
So even as Azimio, the presidential candidate was Raila Odinga, the running mate was Martha Karua.
Yeah.
Previously, it was, under NASA, it was Raila Odinga and Kalonzo Musyoka.
Yes.
How do you see it as a possibility at a time that, you know, there will be a lot of trade-off between political parties if they are to come together and form a coalition?
And that's why I'm saying that trade, that it is political parties that can just decide. If the political party decides a woman will be a deputy, you will be. If a political party decides this area, this region, we are giving women governors 24 across board. That means you find UDA will give, ODM will give, Wiper will give, because remember our politics are so regional based, and we have decided political parties are regional based. So you'll find women winning, and even the 2/3 we are saying today, if you decide each political party can just give us 8 to 9 women, the 4 or 5 political parties, we will have 63 women in the constituencies.
No, you need, okay, and also I'm an election expert. Elections is about numbers. So at the end of the day, even when you say I'm going to field a woman as a deputy or field a woman as a presidential candidate, you have to ask yourself, can that woman bring numbers? Because at the end of the day, it's that. And so if you, like, if that woman can't bring numbers, it's not just about putting a woman. In the last election, when Martha Karua was running for governor in Kirinyaga County, she was ahead of Anne Waiguru throughout for a long time. But the moment she moved to run as a deputy president candidate for Raila Odinga, she didn't even get votes in Gishugu, her home. So, you know, it shifts. So it's a calculation, the perception of the public. So it's not a decision you just make like that, because you're in this election to win. So sometimes some hard, difficult choices will have to be made. So you may say, I am going to, we'd like to put this woman, but you have to make sure that that woman is able to garner the numbers. And that's why the strategy of the G7 is actually to say that you start grooming the women who are going to run for governor now, early enough, so that they begin to work their ground. And while I'm saying this, there was something that
so
Senator...
I go back to what I wanted.
What Senator Onyonka said. You said you referred to the woman member of parliament for Kisii, where you're saying she runs around the whole county. Things are difficult for her. But I've also told the women that is a narrative that is being sold, so that you look like you're not actually as effective as you are. I am more effective than my governor, yet I do not have those resources. If you look at the amount of work I've done...
You misinterpreted what I meant.
No, but I'm just saying,
what
help
I
us.
meant was, you can't take somebody who's running like me as an MP, but she's covering a larger area.
A much larger area.
Yes, but what I want... Yes, but what I'm just saying is that I keep hearing that being narrated.
Okay.
And what I'm saying, because I know you support women, I'm asking you, Senator Nyonka, don't continue that narrative. Those are the biases that makes it difficult for women to run. And that's why I keep telling people, let's put everything on the table.
Okay. All right.
Yes,
but let me finish some.
Yes, I think we can let you. But I'm just saying,
I actually want us
it's
to
very important
on this topic.
Yeah, let me finish some. You see, for me, when you look at politics in Kenya, so number one, if your region is ODM, you must make sure you're in the right party. Then number two, when you're going for your primaries now, it's your political party, because that is where we bungle everything in our primaries. Even the strong ones will go down depending on how it will go. But if women are supported at their primaries, trust me, when you're done, let's say, for example, you're in Nyanza. When you do your primaries and you're done and you have an ODM ticket, 80% you're done.
You're done. You've already won the seat.
80%.
In the stronghold.
Same way with Wiper, same way with Rift Valley, depending on the party, and also Central. Now, it is only in the cities where you can compete more because it is very cosmopolitan.
Right.
So there you have to plan. You will go through primaries, but still, you are given an age of, depending on how they believe in their parties, you are given an age of 60 to 55%, you are done. Now you have to work on this other 45 to ensure. So for me, if political parties in Kenya, 2027, will say we don't even want top-up, we just want to see women from county assemblies, and you see, we are only speaking about National Assembly. Do you know we should go back and speak about county assemblies? There is no way we can be topping up 950 women every time we go to an election. It is wrong.
Okay.
So we have to make sure that they are also pushed to go through an election and given the right ticket. And in fact, where I will plead with the president, let us start by making women in county assemblies elected so that you start reducing also the age bit.
Senator Maina, I want you to have the final word on this. And you said, the other panelists said of the realities that come after an election. But in the Constitution, 16 positions were reserved for women, purely women.
Yeah, in the Senate.
In the Senate.
Yes, in the Senate. And 16 women were found for those positions. If you say 50-50 in other appointive positions, why is it difficult to find those persons?
It's not difficult to find the persons. And I want to categorically state, women are so competent, women are so schooled lately, that amazingly you might find women are getting much more schooled than the boy child. So we have competent women, but there are many factors that the society will put around a woman to make it difficult for them to succeed, and I'll tell you why. If you look at our registered voters, you will find that maybe our numbers are almost the same, and women make over 50% of the population. But when you return the nomination list, like what we returned in the UDA, you find that the same population which has so many women has voted in more men than women. So we end up, number one, with a nomination list which is competently done and competitively done, which returns more men naturally, because the perception of a woman as a leader, we still have to work on those perceptions, cultural perceptions of who should become a leader, because then you can't explain why, if we have over 50% of women in that registered voters, why then are we returning more male candidates? We had a very big fight with the IEBC, all the political parties, because none of our lists were compliant with the Constitution, because we had more men than more women. And in fact, that is why you will find even GEC was proposing that, they were proposing that for us to get more women, we use the stronghold concept, the stronghold where political parties are compelled by law to return candidates from their stronghold positions as women. Because once you give, if for instance you give a stronghold from Nyeri, you give UDA ticket to a woman in Nyeri, it means that the wave the UDA wave, you sweep that woman straight, like 40% of the work is done by the party. So the candidate is left with maybe 30%, 40%.
But the
in order
balance is
to
also
win
not
that,
to compromise your votes.
Yes, to win that position. But you cannot then take a woman candidate and impose on the electorate. If that is happening at the electorate level, where the woman, you have perceptions that are pulling the woman down, can you imagine how many more perceptions you pull that woman when you are doing appointive, even picking that name? You're working within the same cultural, setting. The same stereotypes are there. Issues that have caused mainstreaming to be difficult are still there, haven't been worked out. Can you imagine how much more women you need to work out together with men? But I think this time around, if we have allies, ambassadors who are male, not just women talking about it, not just a conversation which is seen to be engendered on the women, just pushing and being perceived as though what we want is to dominate on men. That conversation will change, because we must start to see the children we give birth to at home. There are more girls, by the way, than the male children. You must remember your daughter in the homes. Those are the girls we are talking about when we are talking about women ascending to managerial positions, to positions of authority. And we must then come up with a formula that helps us, that even if there is affirmation should only be done for a period of time. Affirmative action, like the county assemblies use Article 177. That's how they are able to meet the gender quota. Article 177 gives them a top-up, an ability to top up after the elections. Now, some of the proposals we are discussing here, strategies, are before the elections, if you have to use the political parties. But finally, before we are able to achieve that quota, we must face our reality and say we have to then balance this gender after the elections. Okay,
a lot more work still remaining to be done, and we'll continue these conversations into the future. Now, to a developing story.